And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to take a look at a short little card game called Noir. It's for 2 players, with a variant up to 4 players, plays quickly in 15 minutes, and is a light deduction card game. It can be found when you buy the minigame library from Level 99 Games. In this library you get 6 games, and this is one of the 6 that comes with it. Well, in this light card game, one of you is the killer, running around, killing people, moving around secretly to try to hide, and if you think the inspector's on your tail, you can disguise yourself as another suspect. If you're the inspector, you're trying to figure out and deduce, while the people are getting killed, which one is the killer that's around all these people. You're also trying to move around to try to get close to them so that you can arrest them. It's a great little game, let's check it out. When you set the board up, you set it up in a 5x5 grid, so you have 5 cards across, 5 cards down. The directions say to put them in alphabetical order. It makes it easier to find people, or you can just randomly set it up like I have here. Now you can see the cards kind of give you that noir feeling, the way that they all sort of look. And if you take a closer look, you can see, maybe what some of them look like Vladimir and Marion and Phoebe and Clive and Linus. Now in this game, the killer wins if he kills the inspector or if he's able to kill 16 people without being arrested. The inspector wins if he arrests the killer. Now to start the game, the killer takes a card and puts it down, and this will be held secretly. In this case we put it up, but here this killer is Ophelia, and the inspector will take 4 cards at the beginning game on his turn. So the killer goes first, and on the killer's first turn they must kill somebody. So each player, the inspector and the killer, gets 3 different types of actions. For the killer, one of the actions that you could take is to kill somebody, and it's actually the action that you have to take on your first turn. And when you kill somebody, you have to kill someone that is adjacent to you. In this case we are Ophelia, which is her right here. And you can see that we need to, she can only kill someone that's adjacent to her. So she can kill Yvonne, Neil, Horatio, and Zachary. So she can kill one of these, and she kills them by just flipping them over, and now you see that Neil is now deceased. So now it's the inspector's turn, and the inspector looks at the 4 cards that they have, and they have 4 people here. We have Wilhelm, Geneva, Clive, and Ustad. Now they get to pick, after seeing who is killed, they get to pick which person they want to be. So the inspector now, these are again held hidden to the other player, of course. I'm putting them down for the video, but they hold them close to themselves, and they get to pick who they want to be. Well, let's say they pick Clive, okay? So these 3, now they know that I am not Clive, the killer is not any of these people. All these people are here, they're not the killer. So now they can do one of 3 things. They can arrest, which means anywhere, since we're Clive, just like when the killer was killing, the inspector can arrest anybody adjacent. And so Clive could arrest any of these adjacent characters, and he just points to them and says, I think you're Alice. And if the killer is, then the game's over and the inspector has arrested the killer. If the killer says, nope, that's not me, then the play just moves to the next person. But it gives some information to the killer, because now the inspector tried to arrest Alice, so now the killer knows that the inspector is now one of these people around Alice. So that's one of the actions that the inspector can take. Another one is exonerate, and the exonerate action allows them to pick up 1 card from the deck. Now remember, this Clive is their secret identity, so this is let's not think about that. So they pick up a 4th card, and they get to look at these and discard one of them and keep the other 3. Now remember, these are secret from the killer, so the killer doesn't know that the inspector has this information. So this is sort of secret information that the inspector has that the killer doesn't know that the inspector has. Well, let's say she wants to get rid of this Geneva card. If Geneva is still alive, usually you just place it right on there, and now she has these. The inspector has these 3 information in their hand, And now both of us know that Geneva is not either player. We know that she's just an innocent character. She's not the killer and she's not the inspector. So that then basically after you do one action, your turn's over, and then it goes back to the killer. So again, now the killer has the actions of killing, which we talked about. We have an action called shifting. So what shifting is they can take any row or any column and completely shift it by one. So if they wanted to shift a column, they would simply take this and shift it either up or down. In this case, they're shifting it up, and the one that fell off the edge comes down here and goes down to the bottom. If they had shifted the other way, again, the same thing. If they had shifted a row, it would just kind of shift like this. And again, you can move either right or left. Now, the only rule to shifting is you cannot shift a row or column in the the opposite way that it was just shifted. So essentially, if I shifted this down, the next player can't just shift it back up. That's the only rule for shifting. So again, we have kill, we have shift for the killer, and those are two of their main actions. Now it's the inspector's turn. Now we talked about the inspector arresting, and we talked about the inspector exonerating. Well, the inspector can also shift. So if they want to shift something, they could probably maybe shift this one down, and they could shift this down, trying to move closer to who they think the killer is. So again, in summary, the inspector can either arrest someone adjacent, they can shift rows or columns, a row or a column, or they can exonerate by getting more information and then placing it down. Now it's the killer's turn again. For the killer, we've talked about killing, we've talked about shifting, and the last thing the killer can do is called disguising. It's where the killer can pick up a card, and they can look at this card, and if this person is not dead yet, if they're not deceased, they switch identities. So now, since Alice is not dead, the killer now has a new identity of Alice. And the Ophelia card, now they put this basically down, and so now the inspector knows who he was chasing, who the killer was. They go, oh man, I missed it. And now this person has a secret identity, which of course is face down in a full game. So essentially that's how the game goes. The killer's trying to kill as many people as they can, trying to find the inspector. They can kill, shift, or disguise to a new character. And the inspector essentially is either trying to find and arrest the killer, or they're trying to shift to move close, because remember, they can only arrest adjacent, or they're trying to exonerate to get more clues to figure out who are they not. So kind of, using the trial and error and reducing the amount of information that's out there. So essentially that's played. So again, the killer wins if he kills the inspector or he kills 16 people, and the inspector wins if they arrest the killer. Well, there you have Noir. Well, I really like this little card game. Number one, it's quick. 15 minutes and it's done, and that's about right. You can play once as the killer and once as the inspector, and you're done in 30 minutes. And you probably will want to play it again because it's that kind of fun. Now the cool thing is when you're the killer, and you're killing people that are near you, and then you're shifting around to kind of like slither out or get people closer to you that you really want to try to kill. And then you think the investigator's sort of on your tail and kind of finding you, and the tension really rises, and then you can disguise yourself as someone else and start over, which is kind of cool. But there is some tension there when you're killing people and trying to move around, and you kind of get this paranoia feeling like, oh, he's got to know where I am right now. He's got to know where I am. And you talk to the person after you play, and it's like, no, I had no idea where you are. But the whole time you're like looking over your shoulder, having this paranoia feeling like, oh, he's got to know where I am. Really cool tension feeling when you're the killer. And when you're the inspector, you're trying to figure out who he is. But every time he kills somebody, it narrows it down. He kills another person, it narrows it down. He shifts and kills someone else, it narrows it down. Sometimes you might have him down to 1 or 2 people. Plus, you also have these other cards in your hand that it's not him. So you have information that he doesn't have, so you might have it narrowed down more than he thinks you do. And so doing that, it's a really cool thing to try to follow and try to deduce, okay, well, which one of the two do I really think he is? Try to get close to him so I can arrest him. It really gives an exhilarating feeling. So playing both sides actually gives a completely different feel, but they're both very enjoyable. Now, the game does have a couple of variants. It does have 3 other variants. One of them that you can play with 3 or 4 people, called Spy Tag. Now, the 3 different variants, I gotta say I don't like them. any more than I like the first game, Killer vs. Inspector. I like the main game the best, actually. Now, the variants are good. Now, if you ever do get tired with the main game, it's great. There's 3 other variants there that just tweak the rules just a little bit. It plays a little differently. Most of it's the same, but just a little tweak here and there. It's really cool that the designer put some thought into it and really wrung out every last bit of value that he could out of this. And it's a great value being, part of this, and you can also buy it separately on their website really cheap too. On my Level 99 Games. So anyway, you've got the extra variants. The game itself is great. It's a great little card game. You got to check it out and pick it up.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.